Hey guys, welcome to the Bourboneering YouTube channel. I'm Austin, and today I'm going to teach you how to make pour-over coffee. So you're only going to need a few things. You're going to need some coffee. This is a Colombian single origin coffee from Trade Coffee, which is kind of like a subscription service for coffee. It's all direct trade or fair trade coffee. This is all the information on this coffee. It's a lighter roast, I do believe. It's got some nice chocolatey and floral notes in there. This is the first time actually having this coffee. But on top of your coffee, you're also going to need a coffee grinder or a burr grinder, assuming you get a whole bean coffee, and we'll talk about that later. Burr grinders are way better than blade grinders, but I can go into detail on that later. Also, I lost the top, so I'm going to be using a screwdriver to turn this one. I have an electric grinder at home, but so also you're going to need a scale that measures in grams. This is important. You always want to do coffee by weight rather than by volume. It's just easier because every coffee is a little bit different and ensures you get the same amount of coffee. Now, also, the most important thing, you're going to need your brewer. This is a V60, Hario V60. It is a pour-over brewer. You put the coffee filter in the top, and it comes through the hole like that, and there's a carafe there as well. So, also on top of the first step here is going to be grinding the coffee. I'm using Stumptown's pour-over recipe, so that's why I'm pulling this up right now. We'll be using 21 grams of whole bean coffee and 360 grams of water at the end. So let's measure out our coffee here. We're going to weigh it out. I weigh it directly into this grinder because it's small enough. If you're using a big electric grinder, don't mess up your scale. Use a cup and pour that in there. So we're tearing out the scale to make sure it's at 0. Make sure I can read it. Get right to 21. Oop, don't get away there. Alright, now that we got this, we're going to start grinding. I'm going to be using my screwdriver for this. There's a lot better methods, I promise. I'm going to speed this up for you. Alright, here we go with the actual brew method. First, we're going to fold our filter. We're going to fold this edge here to allow it to fit into the brewer. Also, again, I have a gooseneck kettle in the corner heating up to 206 degrees Fahrenheit water. You don't want it to bring it to boiling. That is going to be too hot and you're going to scald your coffee. Alright, now that we have the filter in, there we go. We want to go grab our gooseneck kettle with the hot water, and we're going to rinse the filter. This gets the paper flavor out. It also heats up the brewer and gets everything ready. And then finally, it also absorbs water, which would otherwise absorb your coffee if you did it any other way. It's important to warm the brewer because there's this concept called thermal shock. Now, thermal shock in engineering terms can cause damage to equipment and plants and different things like that. But here, it really is just going to cool your coffee down a lot. If you pour your coffee into a cold brewer and then into a cold cup, you're going to have a cold cup of coffee before you can even take a sip of it. So that's why you heat everything up and let it get ready for the coffee so as not to lose that temperature that quickly. All right, now that we have this rinsed out, we are going to put the coffee into our coffee bed and we're going to level it out. Now, you want to use whole bean fresh roasted coffee. It's the best way to do it. That way you can control the grind setting and the freshness stays longer. But if you don't have whole bean or you don't have a grinder, you can use the supermarket kind. It's not that big a deal. It's whatever you like. Do what you think is best. I grind my coffee for a V60 just a little bit finer than I would get in the supermarket too. So that, again, you can control your grind, which you normally otherwise couldn't if you're buying it from the store like this. Also, you can ensure it's better quality coffee. All right, now that we have the bed nice and flat, we're going to tear out our scale. Again, we're doing this by weight, and we're doing 360 grams of water. The first pour, we're going to pour about 30 to 40 grams of water, and just to wet all the grinds. This is called the bloom. In fresh roasted coffee, there's CO2 trapped in there, and you'll see in a second the bubbles coming out of this coffee. That is the water releasing the CO2, so it's released and doesn't go into your cup, which can cause some off flavors sometimes. So we're going to leave it here for about 10 to 15 seconds until those bubbles slow down a little bit or until we lose that water. From there, we're going to go into a circular motion, starting inside and going outward and then coming back in. We're going to pour slowly until we reach a 360 gram pour. Now, this is going to take some practice, but you want your whole brew session to take about 3 minutes. That's from the beginning of the bloom to pouring your cup of coffee into your cup. Now, this is where it's tricky. This depends on your grind size. It depends on how fast you're pouring the water, and it just depends on the weather sometimes. It's hard to get exactly right, but that's a good way to play around. It's a good rule of thumb for this brewer here. And you might find that you like it a little bit stronger, so you want it to be a little tighter grind or use a little bit less water and take a little more time. But you see here my method, I'm going out, now I'm going back in and then going back out again. You want to cover everything. You want to try not to hit the edge filter too much because the water will go straight in and it'll dilute it. It won't be absorbing the coffee flavor. All right, we're getting close here. Again, I'm not speeding this up because I want you to see how long it takes and get a good feel for the time. I'm going to have the weight and the time of this whole brew session, so you kind of get an idea. But there you go, 360, and I'm pouring the remainder of my hot water into my cup that I'm about to drink out of, again, to get that heat so we don't lose that heat when we pour the hot coffee in it. All right, as you can see, there's still a few bubbles. Now we're just waiting for it to drain out. Again, I want to keep this full length and not speed it up or not skip anything, just so you see how long it takes so you can get a feel for your time. I haven't put the timer in yet, so I don't know what time we're hitting at, but I can tell you that this cup of coffee is great, so I'm going to keep this time for this coffee. Every coffee is a little bit different. It's some coffees you need a finer grind, some coffees you need a coarser grind. It just depends. Every time you get a new bag of coffee, the first few cups are really just playing around to find that sweet spot for you. For the pourers especially, this goes for coffee machines, even cold brews like that sometimes, even though cold brew is a little more forgiving. I might do that for the next video. Anyway, so here we go. We're almost done here. I'm about to show you the bed. It is doing perfectly. It is pouring. It's not being clogged up where we're getting drip, drip, drip. It's constant pour out, but it's not a quick pour out. So we had a good circular pour there. As you can see, the coffee is along the edges, and you're going to have a nice bed of coffee at the bottom. That's what you want to see when you're done with this. Coffee is fun to play with. Different flavors, different grinds, different roasts. All this you can play with your coffee, see what you like more. It's just like whiskey. However you like it is how you like it. Drink it black, drink it with sugar, whatever. Although I suggest if you get a good quality coffee, trying it black. It's a lot better than that bitter, dark stuff you get from the store. You might actually enjoy black coffee. All right, so now I'm just discarding my coffee. You can easily compost this. Most of these filters are compostable as well. It's a great fertilizer for gardens. Get rid of the brewer here, and we're going to get rid of our hot water in our mug. Careful, it's really hot. It's a nice little High West mug I got for being part of their one of their loyalty programs. And look, here's our beautiful coffee. It's a lot clearer. It's a lot lighter than you would get out of a heavy brew. It's a lot lighter method. It's a thicker filter. You get the light, nuanced flavors, which is why medium to light roasts are great for pour overs. Thanks for listening, guys. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe on whichever player you're using. Leave a comment and leave a 5-star review if you can. Once you've done that, go follow me on Instagram at Bourboneering or on Twitter at InBourbon, or go like our Facebook page, Bourboneering. All this, as well as my Prestige Decanter affiliate link and a link to sign up for a weekly newsletter, are all below. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.